What is going on, 5-9 gaming followers? This is Nazdarachi, and I'm coming at you today with my good friend and co-worker, co-owner, if you will, Nolar, and we will be covering what I would assume is all of the news on the legal end of Blizzard's woes, because there's a lot of stuff that's been going on, but we're covering pretty much everything significant up to this date, which is September 28th of 2021. And I'm sure there'll be more going on with this that we'll continue to keep you up to date with. But as of right now, there's been a lot of back and forth things going on. So Nolar, why don't you go ahead and say hello and describe for me the first article we're going to jump into here on our narrative timeline of events. The explosive Activision Blizzard lawsuit could set California labor law precedent. Start us there and say hello.
All right, guys. Hey, it's Nolar here. So Nas brought me on because I understand a little more about law than he does, and of course the corporate structure, because this is 5-9 is an actual business. So learning all this stuff gives me a little more insight, and so hopefully I can illuminate you guys how big of a deal this is, because this is a pretty big deal. So back in late July, I think July 20th is when the lawsuit began. The Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which is an agency in the state of California, so it's an actual agency in California, suing Activision Blizzard for pretty bad practices in their labor laws. So if you just go down a little bit, they've been investigating for, I think, over 2 years. So the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, DFEH, hopefully the alphabet soup doesn't confuse you guys, but the DFEH has been investigating for 2 years and then decided to file a lawsuit. Now, this is going to be a pretty big deal because normally federal agencies don't take shaky cases, because they want to set a precedent and tell people in this case, the gaming industry, like, you can't be doing this stuff because we're going to come after you. So more than likely, this is not going to go away. And if you keep going down a little more, this is going to be interesting to see, because it's been, like I said, 2 years of investigations, and we'll be moving forward. So obviously this was a big deal. The stock prices took a big dump, and a lot of things started swirling on social media. Former Blizzard employees started expressing their stories and talking about that, which led to the next part, which is Blizzard's president at the time, J. Allen Brack, to be removed, or he steps down, as he calls it. The frat boy culture, we made a video previously discussing exactly the kind of stuff that was detailed in the lawsuit. Some of it is actually pretty disturbing, so if you really want to learn about it, go ahead and read the actual lawsuit filing. But
I think we had a video covering most of that when it happened as well, so check that out.
Yeah, so we'll link that in to the video here. So yeah, it's been interesting to see, because there have been some prominent people leaving, obviously, of course, the president leaving, and there's been high-level designers, directors, game directors. Those people have been leaving as well, either because they were associated with the lawsuit, they were named in there, or they just decided it was time to move on from Blizzard, because this is probably the time to jump off the firing train. So the next bit that we'll get into right here is the next alphabet soup, as Nas likes to call it, the National Labor Relations Board. Now, this isn't a lawsuit, but it's a complaint filed by this union accusing Activision of violating federal labor laws through their rules, actions, and statements. Just abhorrent working conditions. They can't talk to each other about these kind of things. So there's, if you guys don't understand, there's across all labor laws federally, there's a set of rules that you have to follow, right? You've got to have breaks or blah, 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 blah. Though it's all specified. Every union fights to have standardization across the entire industry. So, a game studio in California should operate the same as a game studio in, like, North Carolina, for example. So they are alleging that Activision Blizzard has violated some of these federal laws and rules. So they're filing that complaint. We'll see if that actually goes through. Activision didn't want to comment, but there is that. Moving on to the next part. So this happened last week. Activision Blizzard they made a statement because the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission, and the EEOC, which is the, if I remember off the top of my head here, I gotta look
Equal Opportunity Employment Commission.
Right. They both filed, they both announced something with Blizzard. So the SEC was announcing an investigation and subpoena of Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Activision Blizzard, while the EEOC filed an actual lawsuit against Blizzard. Now, there's two big implications here. The EEOC is just saying that the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, that guess what? Blizzard isn't following along with some of their guidelines, and therefore they're affecting employees. They're no longer getting equal opportunity, so not paid. The wages aren't the same, right? For males and females weren't the same. Opportunities weren't the same across the board. So, they were filing lawsuits on behalf of the former employees of Activision Blizzard. The SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, in the US, they take care of investors, right? So as a big business, a corporation, you have investors, people who give money to the corporate officers, like Bobby Kotick, who's the CEO. And if I give money to Bobby Kotick, he's supposed to have an obligation to help me get more money, right? Like, that's the rule. I give you some money as an investment. You're supposed to increase my investment value over 3, 6 months, a year, 2 years. That's just how it is. Now, the SEC, what it does is it protects people like me, the investors, to make sure that the CEO or the company isn't doing anything untowards to ruin my money. Now, the biggest thing about this is the investors complain to the SEC because they believe that Activision Blizzard didn't disclose the investigations from the DFEH for 2 years, and the EEOC was investigating them for 3 years. If I was a new investor and heard that you were under investigation, I would rethink my investment. So if I had $1 million to invest to Activision Blizzard, and you told me that there's an investigation going with potential lawsuits coming, I'm not going to give them my money. But because Activision Blizzard's corporate officers didn't disclose that to the investors have a case to say, hey, you know what? They lied to us, or I guess the best way to say, they lying by omission. They didn't say anything about it, and I was fooled into giving my money, right? So that's what the SEC is doing. They're investigating to see if Bobby Kotick knew about all these things and willfully ignored telling their investors that this was happening. And that would be a violation for the SEC, which the SEC could levy fines. And that would, if the SEC investigation found out that this happened, that gives the investors full court press to have their own lawsuits against the company, saying that they didn't do their fiduciary duty to make sure that the investors earned money on their investment, Which
so basically going to cause their stock prices to tank then even more, it seems like.
Right. So this is what the SEC thing is, and most people don't really understand it, which I understand not many people should, because this is investments in corporations and stuff like that. But being part of one ourselves, this hopefully gives you a little more insight as to why these things are happening. Now, again, that's the SEC. They're just investigating. So that's going to take 3, 6, 12 months to officially finish, and then now let's move on to the EEOC, which is the big thing that broke out today. Is last week they announced they were investigating them. We can move on. Yeah. So last week. So let me get back to it. When the SEC and EEOC were announcing this, there were a bunch of people that were leaving. So this is why it looks really bad for Blizzard. The legal officer quits amongst the lawsuit, and then she had actually announced to Blizzard that she was leaving on a Friday, but didn't make the announcement to the public on a Monday or Tuesday. So it looks really bad amongst all the lawsuits with the EEOC, the DFEH, and I'm sure there's more to come by individual employees, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was difficult. And then at the same time, development with games, right? Because Blizzard is a game company. There's been Overwatch 2, Diablo 4. People have been leaving. And right now, last week, the biggest one was the Overwatch 2 director. He said he needed a break, but he completely leaves Activision Blizzard, and here we are. So Overwatch 2 is in a very interesting state at the moment. They announced that back in 2019, BlizzCon, I think, and then there hasn't been much development since, and given what just happened, there won't be much information for a while. So sorry, Overwatch fans, unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait a little more. But if we want to get back to the the news of today now. So the EEOC did file their lawsuit, but they actually settled with Activision Blizzard. So it was $18 million.
Like within a few hours almost, it seems like this had gone through, or days, right?
Yeah, very quickly, because the initial report from IGN was around 6:33, right? It says right there, posted at 6:33 p.m. Eastern time. And then there was an update literally an hour later. So when they made this report, there was just an immediate update. So there was a very, very quick lawsuit, or settlement, I should say. And just to wrap it up, yeah, right there, $18 million fund to compensate employees affected by discrimination and harassment. It also intends to upgrade its policy and practices to prevent and eliminate harassment and discrimination in the workplace, as well as to overhaul its overall performance review system. So the thing is, $18 million, while that's a good start, it just feels like a start to me, because I think Blizzard's cap.
Like, that can't be but a drop in the bucket of what they,
Right. Blizzard's Activision Blizzard's market cap is, I think, $56 billion. So $18 million is, I think I've seen around the internet where Bobby Kotick uses that as toilet paper, right? So like that's really not a lot.
I mean, it's a lot, but it sounds like the advertising budget for like 1 or 2 games or something like that. It's not something that's gonna be noticeable to the point where they'll be like, well, we really learned our lesson,
Yeah, that's it's interesting because there are set number of dollars for fines and settlements and stuff. If you really want to hit these companies to behave properly, you need to make it a fraction, or a percentage of their market cap. So if they screw up again, it's not $18 million, it's $1.8 billion. And then you would, cause to pause to be like, all right, maybe I don't try to screw these people over. There was another case. I don't think we have the article pulled up here, but Blizzard was accused of shredding evidence in their DFEH lawsuit about a month ago. Well, the thing is, that sounds pretty guilty and it looks pretty guilty, but the fine to do that is nothing compared to if they actually were guilty. You know what I mean? So it was worth. It's a calculated risk, and it's worth the risk if they got caught. They got caught, but it doesn't matter because their evidence is no longer apparent. And so the minimal fine of like, I don't know, $500,000, $1 million is nothing compared to if they actually were the ruling went against them for the DFEH against Blizzard themselves. So yeah, this is an update. So look, this is a quick settlement. There seems to be very minor repercussions going against Activision Blizzard themselves. But overall, this is the first domino amongst a bunch of dominoes. Nas, what are your thoughts on this?
I was just saying, if you were comparing this to like some other type of crime, this punishment sounds like, literally like community service. And the reason I say that is because this payment that they've given in terms of the settlement will be given as compensation divided between charities that advance women in the video game industry or promote awareness around harassment and equality, specifically gender equality, as approved by the EEOC, which is the organization that they were settling with. It seems like so far, the dominoes, like you mentioned, are starting to drop, and it seems like the lightweight ones are kind of falling first.
Yep.
This does go pretty in depth, and I'm at a point right now where I'm not sure if they survive this. Like, at least, with all these different compounding things. Like, obviously Activision's gonna survive, and Blizzard is fundamentally gonna survive, but like intact as a business, like, I don't know. Do you see them like rebranding, changing their name to try and distance themselves from this?
There was that one rumor that I think you and Goresh talked about where they, it was like, it seems like some ex-employees vendetta against Blizzard and they just made up some stuff. But honestly, given how some of this stuff looks, I don't think there's any way that Activision will continue to keep Blizzard around. Mostly because you look at the cost-benefit analysis. Like, this is going to cost them $18 million to start. And then probably more down the line when considering the SEC investigation and the DFEH actual lawsuit, and who knows what other things may come up across the board. Is it even worth it to keep it? And that's just the bare basic thing you look at when you're talking about business is this costing us more money than it's making? And right now, D2 Resurrected was pretty good. I think it was I don't have the numbers for the sales, but I feel like it was a pretty decent launch. But what else do they have on the horizon that will sustain them? Because WoW as a whole, not doing too well. Overwatch, the sponsors are leaving Overwatch League, so that doesn't look good too. So you're basically, the costs are going up and the revenue is going down, and there's going to be a point where the CEO, Bobby Kotick, and the rest of the corporate officers on the board and the board of directors and investors are going to be like, well, when are you folding Blizzard and moving on? Because it costs too much money. So it feels like it's heading that way. It's not there yet, I don't think, but if all the dominoes keep falling and they're heavy hitters, yeah, I can assume that down the line, Blizzard themselves will fold up, which is sad because, you know, I have such nostalgia for those games back in the day. But to be fair, those people are no longer with Blizzard themselves. So
right, I actually referenced that in one of the previous videos. Like the same thing. Like, it's painful to see this for a company that I once really cherished most of the products that they made. But like you just mentioned, like Blizzard North is no longer a thing, and most of it has already been dissolved. So it's just kind of like a relic of the past. And they seem to be pretty quick and easy, readily available to just start changing the names of stuff. Like we covered that too, how they changed the name of the character McCree in Overwatch to distance themselves from the character that it was referencing, or the human being that the character was referencing. They changed the name of blacklisting to blocklisting. They've been quick to change some other things, so I don't see a situation where Activision necessarily doesn't pull the plug, but basically dissolves the Blizzard we know today and restructures it with a different name.
Yeah, there's a chance that happens. And again, you know, they might do a quick turnaround. But the problem is right now is the name is so the company's so toxic. They've lost a lot of talented people. They might not have been great people, but they've lost talented people. How easy is it to recruit talented people? That's the other thing you have to consider too, right? You know, before they used to be able to pay people a lot less, but they would say, look, the Blizzard name and the prestige will carry you. And people bought into it because that actually was a thing. But right now, the name is so toxic and the company is so toxic that I can't imagine that Blizzard, unless Activision wants to open up their wallets even more, which is again leading to my point that maybe they just dissolve it. They need to pay people over the mean wage because you need to recruit people somehow. And before you could just say, hey, the Blizzard name would carry you, and now that's not going to happen. So instead of your starting $45,000, maybe they need to start to offer at $70,000, $75,000 for a beginning developer. Who knows, right? So there's a lot of things that need to change, and it's very interesting to see. And hopefully this illuminated a little bit more to you guys because, you know, myself and Nas are actually part business owners of Five9, and so we have a little more insight to how the corporations are structured and why things are significant, and hopefully that's useful to you guys.
Yeah, you so even more than me, so I really appreciate you coming on the video to explain everything. To sum it all up, I mean, this is honestly like the highest profile scandal that we've seen in the video game industry within the past like decade, wouldn't you say? I mean,
yeah, there's been some high profile things like the Riot lawsuits and stuff like that, but this is multiple like angles being attacked. Like I said, DFEH, the EEOC, the SEC's coming after them. Now it's kind of like what's happening next, who's leaving, who's coming back, who's going to defend them. It's just a whole saga, so I'm sure there's a documentary about to be made at some point.
Yep, and we, of course, will be keeping everyone in the audience fully up to date. You know, we'll wait until enough significant information piles up, and if anything big happens, we'll be right there to cover it. So if you guys do enjoy videos like this, these kind of editorial, journalistic style coverage of the video game industry as a whole, please be sure to check out the subscribe button. Consider hitting the bell also, because we'd love to see you on all of our future uploads. In the spirit of that, if you do enjoy this video in particular, consider hitting the like button to hopefully get it in front of more sets of eyes. Kind of tickle the algorithm a little bit. With that being said, again, I'm pretty sad to see everything go down this way, but if it turns out that Blizzard is guilty of all the stuff that's being, alleged against them, I think that justice needs to be served, and it doesn't matter how big you are, because like the old saying goes, it just means you fall harder, and that's my 2 cents on where we stand right now. Again, I will reserve ultimate judgment until the legal proceedings are done and the gavel has been slammed down. But of course, we'll be here to report that for you guys. Any other closing thoughts from you, Nolar?
No, appreciate you having me on, and we'll keep you up to date, guys. So hit that subscribe button, all that stuff. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace out, everybody. Have a great day. And of course, leave your comments down below if you're confused about any of this, or if you have, invested stake in what's going on. We'd love to hear your thoughts either way. Or if you're just a Blizzard fan that's kind of disappointed, we're in the same boat. So feel free to use the comments section. Leave us your thoughts down below, and we'll catch you on the next video.